different people had different roles that night. There were people that were stocking trucks as fast as they could. There were people that were out on trucks. There were people that were on the concert grounds before anybody else was there. And they all had a part, they all had a story. And yeah, just talking about it, or even just sitting in silence and being together silently with people that understood.
Welcome, everybody. My name is Dan Sundahl. This is the Dance on Health podcast, where we talk about mental health, well-being, and creativity. And I want to welcome my guest and my friend, Heather, who we've known for a really long time. Heather, how are you?
I'm great. I'm a little nervous, but I'm so happy to be here.
Oh, we're friends, right? We're just going to talk
Yes.
about stuff that we normally talk about.
Yeah.
Maybe let's start, maybe before I share how we met, maybe tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do, a little bit about your background, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Well, I am from Las Vegas, Nevada. I was born here. I thought I would leave and live somewhere else, but I'm still here. I'm the mother of two, a tween and a teen. I have the world's best husband.
You do have the world's best husband.
He's pretty cool.
Yeah, he's very cool.
I am a devoted pet parent, and I am a dental hygienist, and I worked in EMS for a little too long.
Okay. All right. So you worked in EMS in Las Vegas.
I did.
And correct me if I'm wrong. We met, you contacted me initially to do a big group photo session. I was speaking at EMS World in 2017 in mid-October. And you'd reached out to me a couple months before and says, "Hey, Dan, can we get a bunch of people together, a bunch of services together and do this big photo session?" I'm like, "Yeah, God, I'd love to do that." So you masterminded that whole thing. And then on October 1st, the shooting happened at the Route 91 Harvest Music Festival. And I thought, well, I don't know if you guys still want to do this photo session. So I reached out to you. First, I wanted to know how you were. And you were one of the responding paramedics on that day. And I'm like, "Do you still want to do this photo session?" And you're like, "Fuck, Dan, yeah." Like now more than ever, because now it's even more important to do. And I'm like, "God, how are you going to swing this?" So we went out there. You picked me up at the hotel. We went to the location. A lot of I think it was 2 or 3 different fire departments, 2 or 3 different EMS, law enforcement was there. You had it all arranged. All the people, the majority of them responded on that day. And I'll tell you, that was the most powerful photo session that I have ever been a part of. I love doing the big group photo sessions, but man, that one was, and it was, God, maybe 12 days after the shooting. Like it was less than 2 weeks after the shooting.
I don't think it was even a week after the shooting.
Yeah,
it was really very soon after.
It was really soon after. So I recognized that was the first time that many of those first responders were together in a non-emergency situation together. And, I recognized that a lot of them were having a little bit of debriefing from, what was happening. And yeah, it was incredible. And you were able to pull that all together. I'll pop up the image here so that everyone can see it, the final picture that we did. And yeah, that was a really powerful moment for me as a photographer and artist.
It was a collaborative effort because I knew something needed to be done. I knew that none of us had words to tell anybody about what our story was or what we went through. There was a kinship that was formed that night that you were so able to express just so beautifully. 1 October was awful. It was absolutely horrible. But I feel that the camaraderie, the teamwork, the kinship that you were able to show in your art really came through. There's little things about the photo shoot people don't know. I'm not going to take all the credit for it because you're the mastermind. You're the artist in this.
No, well, I created the artwork, but you got all the people together, which was really difficult to do to get at that time. Short after that event to get all those different services together at that one point. It was a big deal.
It was. Really and amazing. One of the things I wish were different is that we also had the city of Las Vegas the red trucks. Had them there ready for the photo shoot, and they got called out seconds before we were able to do the photo. I wish that they were there as well, because we had everybody, and it was surreal. It was surreal having everybody together. That was cathartic. That was needed.
Yeah, and it was very, like, you could feel it. You could feel that energy. And to be honest, I'm surprised that, as busy as Las Vegas is, I'm surprised that more people didn't get called away while we were there, because we were there for a long time, and man, God, it was hot. It was so hot that day. Well, I'm Canadian, so
It was hot.
may not be so hot for Las 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 Vegasans, what do you call yourselves?
Las Vegans.
Las Vegans? Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
I've never even thought about it. Heather, can you, without trauma dumping, like we talked about that before, like without getting into like super details, can you just describe kind of where you were and kind of how, and again, this podcast is about well-being, mental health, post-traumatic growth, but a big part of that is acknowledging what happened. So without getting into like super detailed stuff, because we don't need to do that, but if you can describe, as a paramedic working that day, can you just kind of go through like a basic timeline of what actually happened? And then there's a specific thing that I want to mention at what you talked about. You've graciously come and spoke at our conference a couple of times about a specific thing that I want to talk on as well. But
Okay.
if you can describe that for us.
Well, I need to clear up first. I'm not a paramedic in the US sense. I am an advanced EMT. I know in other countries it's the same designation, but here my official designation is an advanced emergency medical technician. For 1 October, I was not scheduled to work. I wasn't even scheduled to be in Las Vegas. My 2 children, my husband and I, we were away in California, about 4 hours away. And I, for reasons I can't explain, just felt a dread, just a heavy feeling that I needed to get home. And it was late enough in the day that we had forfeited the cost of our hotel by leaving, but we got in the car and we drove, and my husband was fine with it. And my kids are small enough, they just go along with it. We got home, got the kiddos showered up. I showered up, and everything went to heck. Everything just fell apart. And I got dressed as fast as I could. My hair was still wet, dripping from the shower. I forgot to take my pajama top off. So my uniform, I had my pajama top hanging out under the sleeves. That was just crazy. Got to the yard as fast as I could. Ambulance was stocked, ready to roll. Didn't have your typical partner. And just, they said, you, boom, gone. And we were gone in a flash. And I don't think I'd ever driven so fast or got to the resort area as quickly in my life.
What information did you have from dispatch?
Well, things now they say were not correct, but and when things first go down, you don't know what's going on. But the first thing we heard was that there were multiple shooters, multiple casualties. There was not enough people to respond. It was an all call. Anyone and everyone that could respond, on duty or off, everyone get here now. And we did. Fire, EMS, police, anyone you could think of that was able to respond that day did. And I don't know. I don't know how we got through it all, and many of us didn't. Many of us, that was it. That was the last night. But yeah.
How long did you work? How long was that? Do you remember? And again, we don't need to get into detail stuff, but you get on scene, you do what you have to do, transport, go back, restock. How long did you work for on that shift? Do you remember?
I don't remember exactly when I was taken off, but I know that it was close to the time that restaurants would be done with breakfast, because weird thought, after being called back to station, after the second crew went out and they debriefed all of us, I called my husband to tell him I'm okay. I'm heading home. And he's just such a good guy. He said that he's not going to have me worry about breakfast and he'd go pick up anything from any place that I wanted as long as I would let him know ASAP because they didn't want to get there after breakfast is over. So hours, I mean, maybe 12 hours or so. It seemed like 20 minutes. But the times that we were held short where we couldn't respond seemed like hours.
How old were your kids at the time?
This was in 2017. Um, yeah, my daughter would have been 3. My boy would have been 5 going on 6.
Okay. So very
Little,
young, right?
little.
Very little.
Hmm.
And that's the topic that I thought was so wonderful when you came and spoke at our conference. And you focused on family, right? How this event affected your family.
Hmm.
So how did it affect your family at that time? Like that, and then the next, the few days after.
Well, I don't think the kids were old enough to really understand what had happened, but the feeling of what had happened was palpable. You couldn't go to a grocery store. You couldn't turn on the television. You couldn't go anywhere in my city without feeling. It was like we were in a collective mourning, and the kids felt that. And I was different. Hello, Pierre. I was different.
Yeah, just so everyone knows, Pierre is a cat.
Yeah,
right?
Pierre is Pierre's the kitty cat.
Yeah, we can hear the meowing, which is great. Animals are welcome.
Yeah, definitely, always. But they were young enough. They're too young to understand exactly what had happened. My 3-year-old knew a bad guy with a gun. My boy, who was going on 6, he had a better understanding of what was going on. But my behavior and my emotional state definitely affected them. Parents are their children's safe harbor, and my children didn't feel like their mom was in a safe harbor and they didn't feel safe. So we had a lot of changes in the weeks after that.
Yeah. And what has changed since then? So if we think of that event happening, how has that affected your family long term? Because now it's been 8 years, right? God, I can't believe it's been 8 years already. How has that affected your family?
We are incredibly cautious, incredibly aware. My daughter is now 11, and she has more awareness than many adults. If we're in a shopping center and somebody passes us 3 times, she will recognize and she'll bring it up to me that she just saw that person wearing XYZ 3 times in the last 15 minutes and keep an eye because she doesn't know what their intentions are. Can walk my kids into a room and have them turn their backs within 2 seconds and they'll know exactly where the exits are in the room and how many there are.
So they've become very vigilant. Even at a young age, they've taken on that.
One of my biggest fears is I know I have hypervigilance now, and I don't want my children to have the same. I want them to be aware. I want them to have safety mindedness, but I don't want them to be hypervigilant to the point that it's a detriment to them.
We talk about post-traumatic growth, and I see post-traumatic growth in you and many of our peers, but is there a way that did it make your family closer? Did it affect your family in some way since then in a positive way?
Well, I call these my EMS life lessons. It was a complete reminder of what's important in life. Is it important to fold the laundry right now or to go out and ride your bikes with the kids? Is it important to look your best when you're taking a photo with your children, or is it important to be in the photo and present? So I think that it was a huge wake-up call for me to reevaluate what's important. And above all else, togetherness and making the memory is the important thing.
Mm-hmm. And Heather, one thing I love that you do every once in a while is, you're not on social media a lot, but sometimes you will send a message out to say, hey, look, everybody, I am disconnecting Like me and my family were going away. We are disconnecting from social media. I am not going to be in touch. You cannot contact me. I am offline for the next 2 weeks, and you let everybody know. And you're
Yeah.
the only person I know that actually does that. And I think that is great. Did
Thanks.
you do that? Did you do that before October 1st?
I don't think I did. That's interesting you bring that up. I don't think I did. But I know our time off now when the kids are not in school, that is the most glorious time of the year for me because I disconnect from piano lessons, sports, anything and everything. And it's all about what all we can do as a family. Where can we go? What can we experience? And I let close people and close family know that we might be in this place on this date. We might be in that place on that date. I'll check in periodically, but I don't want to look at a screen. I don't want to be connected to anything. I just want to just be with my kids and be with my husband and be with my pets.
Yeah. No, I love that. I think more people should do that, to take that time to do that. And I think that's wonderful. Let's talk about your husband for a little bit. I met him for the first time when I in Las Vegas last year. And yeah, I'm like, oh man, you're like my best friend. He's just the coolest guy. And so let's talk about, because as a counseling therapist myself, I really want to focus on maintaining or bolstering interpersonal relationships for first responders, because that's so important to maintain when you really need to have that support. So on that day, you mentioned how great he was.
Yes.
What things did he do? Keeping in mind that I'm hoping maybe some other partners and spouses are going to be listening as to, what can they do to help support their partners in maybe high crisis, high acuity events. But what things did Bob do on at that time that really made you feel that you were supported?
Mm. So much of that time is a blur. But if I had to pull from the memories, um, I was not in a state to take care of my own needs. I didn't feel like eating. I couldn't rest. I didn't want to be home and agitated, but I didn't feel safe going anywhere. So he provided for my needs when I couldn't provide for my own. He always made sure I had water nearby. He always made sure I had food. He reminded me to eat. He took me out into the wilderness. We packed up the kids, packed up the dog, and we walked in the desert and we walked in the woods and we went to mountains and we went to valleys and just every place that he could think of to reset my way of thinking and reset the kids' way of thinking and reconnect what we thought was important. So the greatest thing he did was just pick up the slack. He noticed where I was falling short and he picked it up and he picked it up without keeping score.
Mm-hmm. So he knew what you needed without you asking. And he knew it was about you, the support that you needed. He knew what would make you feel better. And he did it. And that's wonderful. I think
Yeah, and he did it
sometimes we
for the
don't
kids
really,
too.
yeah, well, sometimes we don't know really what our partners need. So I think I'm hoping the lesson is going to be, before you actually have to do it, what would you do if your partner really needs support and is in a state of maybe not being, losing the capacity to help care for themselves or even ask for what they want? Do you really know what your partner would need to feel supported? And if you don't, ask them before you the time comes, right? Like, figure it out beforehand. It's like, hey, if you have a really bad day at work, if you have a horrible tour, what would make you feel better? What could I do to make you feel better? And talk about that beforehand, and make it reciprocal. Of course,
Right.
it's both ways.
It's not one sided.
It's not one sided. But yeah, I think that's wonderful that he was able to. He recognized what you needed. He recognized how to best support you and his family, and he did it.
Yeah, well, we had
Which
had many talks, not about a mass casualty incident. Well, there had been a few before that, but none to this caliber. Um, but we had decided as a couple that I wasn't going to bring home my calls. I wasn't going to take what I had experienced out on my shift and bring it home and dump it on him. So I had people that were culturally competent that I worked with, people that had been in EMS or were in EMS, and those were the people I talked to about specifics. With my husband, I would talk about feelings. I feel worried. I feel apprehensive. I feel upset, but I didn't give him specifics of things that I had done or seen or been witness to. And he knew if it was a particularly bad day because I would come home. He could tell by the look in my face, and I'd go straight to the shower, and I might be in there an hour. And he just left me alone until I came out.
Yeah, because he knew.
He
You're
knew.
not working. You're not working on car anymore, right?
I'm
Are
not.
you?
I am
Yeah.
not.
So you're not working on the MS anymore.
Nope.
What? Let me know if this is okay to talk about. We had talked about, as a dental hygienist,
Mm-hmm.
you, and I found this really surprising, that you were not able to register as an or go to school as an advanced care paramedic or a paramedic
Mm-hmm.
in Nevada because you'd lose your registration as a dental hygienist because of the medications administration. Is that a thing?
It's
Explain that.
close. It's close. We relicense every 2 years as a dental hygienist, and the relicensure procedure is very streamlined. But if you put in there that you administer drugs or what your capacity is in a secondary career, then the dental board has the right to reserve awarding you your license until they can come to meeting and ask you questions. So by completing paramedic school and administering narcotics or any of the other medications that are hot topics, I could potentially hold my dental hygiene license up until an advisory board decided to grant it or not grant it every 2 years. I made the bulk of my money as a dental hygienist, not
Mm-hmm.
on the ambulance. So I wasn't in a position where I wanted to risk that. So I stayed at the level of advanced.
I wonder if is that similar? Is it like that in other states? Do you know?
I would think so. I would definitely think so. There's a lot of the same questioning that applies to having an allied health license, and the governing body that's in charge of your license can accept or deny. So I don't know. I
Well,
don't know.
the reason I brought it up is I like to talk and differentiate between passion and purpose,
Mhm.
where purpose is the idea of, what we do for others that makes us feel good. And then the realm of first responder community and public safety personnel, that's a big sense of our purpose, is that we have a sense of purpose by doing things for others. And a sense of passion is what we do that makes us feel good.
Right.
So in what ways do you get your sense of purpose and passion now?
Well, let me tell you, it's a lot harder. It's a lot harder, but I serve my family first above all else. I find my passion in watching my children become amazing human beings. Just their level of consideration for humanity is off the charts. And I love that. So that's the first thing.
Yeah.
Um, I don't
Family.
I strive every day to not forget that I'm a human and that I'm on this planet with other humans, and a lot of us have no idea what we're doing, and we're trying to get by, and just giving day-to-day grace to people or being aware and finding ways to help people, that fills my soul. It was a lot easier when I worked in EMS. It was a lot easier when I could do different community involvement events to help out people. So now it's smaller, it's on a smaller scale, but I do get to help out. And when I have the opportunity to help anyone at any time, I jump at it. I
You
absolutely
totally jump at it. Just as a side story, there were some paramedics from Canada who were involved in an accident in Las Vegas, and they reached out to a friend of ours, and they reached out to me and like, "Hey, Dan, do you know anyone in Las Vegas?" I'm like, "I do." So I called you, and holy smokes, you went full in and really supported these paramedics and their families for a really long time. And they are forever grateful for that, which is wonderful. Heather, what advice would you give people leaving emergency services? Actually, before I ask that question, can I ask why aren't you on the ambulance anymore?
Mm. In a nutshell, my little girl and I, we had a pretty severe rollover accident. And in the accident, I crushed my dominant arm and lost a significant portion of use. So, because I am not able bodied now, I'm not equipped to handle the physical. And I feel, and my surgeon feels, I might be a detriment to the team. So I would love to be involved in EMS. I would love to teach. I would love to do quality control. I would love to do any involvement out in the community to help out. But it's kind of hard being somebody on an ambulance with one good hand.
Yeah. So it wasn't your decision.
No,
Like
not at
something
all.
happened and you were told, hey, you're not, which I guess you're medically retired, so to speak,
I get
right?
that's weird. It's weird to wrap my head
It's,
around that. I
right, it's
still
weird to
can't
say.
understand that. And I fought
Uh,
with the surgeon for a long time about clearing me. And he said, I don't think you're going to pass this, that, or this, and multiple surgeries and everything I could, but it is what it is. I'm grateful that I'm on this side of the dirt after that accident and I get to watch
yeah.
my children grow up.
Mm-hmm. Perspective, right? So how did that, if we, we're talking about purpose and passion, and how a big part of your purpose and passion was being an advanced care, an advanced EMT, and helping your community that way. And now you're told, nope,
Yep.
you can't work anymore.
Yep.
Similar things happen to many of us who have mental injuries as well as physical injuries where no, you're not getting back on the ambulance. Understanding that many of us attach our identity to what we
Yes.
do in first responder world.
Yes.
So essentially we're being told, look, you can't be who you are.
Yes.
You're not able, you don't have the capacity or the physical / mental abilities to be who you are.
Right.
Figure it out. Right.
Right.
So you got to, you can't do it. It's not your choice. So God, Heather, what did you do? Like what went through, like, how did you manage? How did you process that?
It's definitely an identity crisis. It
Mm-hmm.
definitely is. I'm so used to, and I abhor this question. I hate it when meeting somebody and they ask, "What do you do?" And I've always told people, "Well, I'm a dental hygienist and I am an EMS and I work for this company." And that ended in an instant. It absolutely ended. And now when I do get to know people and they ask, "What do you do?" I side skirted and it went from being difficult to almost being, or I'm kind of cheeky about it.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do? Oh, I travel with my children. Well, what do you do? Well, I love baking with my daughter and I love doing crafts with my son. And well, what else do you do? Oh, I love playing with my dogs. And I kind of sidestep it until they either get the picture or until I get to know them well enough that I tell them the little snippets of my life story and how I became the person that I am now and what I am doing now. But no, it's a definite identity crisis. Transitioning
Mm-hmm.
out, when I was working, you heard that you either died in EMS, you went on to become a nurse and work in a system that didn't always suit you, or you died in dispatch, which is a horrible thing to say because our dispatchers are our lifelines. But they wouldn't even let me test for dispatch because I was not going to be able to use one hand to type quickly enough. So, yeah, identity crisis, absolute identity crisis.
And the same thing with the dental hygienist. So so you can't do that now either.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because
Neither profession. But I
yeah.
wouldn't trust me with one hand to hold something sharp over a gaping mouth. No way. No.
Yeah. So not only did you lose that identity of being an EMT, advanced EMT, but also so your fallback would have been the dental hygienist. You can't even do that.
No.
Right.
Nope.
So yeah, who are you? What support did you have during that time? Because this is also a very critical time. It's a very high risk time, nearing retirement for first responders because of the
Mhm,
identity issue.
mhm.
It's a very significant time for increased mental stress and an increased suicide risk
Right,
factor.
right.
So how long ago was that?
May of 2022 is when my
Okay.
daughter and I had the accident.
All right. So it's only been a few years.
Yeah, yeah.
How, so how did you, well, I'm assuming it's not, you're still probably processing and still trying to make your way through it, right? Or no?
Well, of course, that's just the course of life. You never know how to process everything, but I need to be with my kids. I need to be with my husband. I need to be with my pets. So they kept me going. I could only imagine if I didn't have them in my life, if I didn't have a husband that loves me like he does, or if I didn't have the wonderful pets, especially my dog Sally. She saved my life.
How
And
old is
my
Sally?
kids. Well, you've met Sally.
Yeah. How old is Sally?
Sally will be 10 this November. And
No.
she is my rescue miracle because I try to bright side everything. And on the 1 year anniversary of 1 October, um, we planned on being together. My family, the kids, my husband. I was keeping them away from everyone else that day. We were just going to run away from town, go out into the desert, and just be together, away from all media, all radio. I didn't want to hear about anything. I didn't want to talk about anything. And my husband got up in the morning knowing our plan, and he said, "Well, I'll be right back." So, "What are you doing? You're not supposed to leave. We're staying together." He said, I'm sorry. Just trust me. I'm sorry. I have to go. He came back about 20 minutes later, and he had a big dog with him. I said, "Who is this? Why? Where'd this dog come from?" And long story short, he found out about this dog that was in urgent need right then and there. And he made the decision to go get this dog. And that's my Sally. And
Hmm.
yep, she made it so that I could relax. She made it so that I could sleep when I couldn't talk to, of course, I'm not going to talk to my kids about the feelings I'm feeling, but I didn't want to bring it to my husband. But
Yeah.
I could just bury my face into Sally's fur and cry, and she would sit with me.
Hmm.
So got her on the 1 year anniversary of 1 October. So now that's Sally's gotcha day. It's the day we rescued her, and we celebrate that day rather than think about tragedy.
Yeah. And she's not a rescued, like she's not a trained service dog. She's just a dog being a dog,
She's just
connecting with her
intuitive,
humans.
and she
Yeah.
is every bit the heart of an angel.
Yeah. No, I love that. I want to talk about resilience and God, resilience is a weird word. I have a love-hate relationship with resilience. Our foundation is Recovery and Resiliency Foundation. But I think the word resilience is limiting in some ways because the idea of resilience is you bouncing back to where you were before. So you're here at this level, then something happens and then you're down. And then how quickly can you get back to where you were is your level of resilience. So there's a lot of talk and there's kind of a word of which, yeah, it's great. But I think when we talk about resilience, then our goal is to, okay, bounce back to where we were before versus talking about growth. Okay, well, this happened. Now you're impaired, essentially, if it's, potentially. And, now we want to get back to where we were. But if that's our focus and our goal, then I feel, me personally, I'm speaking from personal experience and as a mental health professional who is also a clinical trauma specialist as well,
Which is
that I think
incredible.
it's limiting our potential,
Right.
right? So I prefer to talk about growth of this is what happened to you. And it's not just EMS. It's just not first responders. It's not just specific calls. It could be lots of things, divorce, interpersonal relationship issue stuff and other things that can happen.
Right. Yeah, 1 October wasn't even my first mass shooting experience.
Hmm.
So I had feelings from a previous mass casualty or mass shooting that would drudged up from 1 October. So, yeah. But I agree with you. Resilience, if anything, that makes a person think of how to compare their current self to their old self. And that seems limiting, and it it can seem like an unnatural measuring stick, and it can give somebody more stress or more, how would I say it? You shouldn't compare yourself to what you were before. You should compare yourself to how far you've come and what is great about your life now.
And what you could be,
Yes.
which is why we put on our conference
Right.
and why I invited you to come on our conference. And I meet hundreds of our peers or people that have gone through stuff,
Right.
and they've actually have become different, better because of those experiences, by
Mhm.
changing their perspective,
Right.
prioritizing family more,
Yeah.
many of the things that you've already talked about, which has made their life actually better in some ways. So I think I don't get me wrong, I understand the complexities and I know how difficult it can be when your neurobiology has changed because of the experiences that you've had, to even think in some cases of getting better, because we're either in a repair or growth mode. And when you're in repair mode, it's hard. You're just trying to survive. And the thought of getting better, if you don't have the help or support, it's really difficult. So I don't want to minimize, um, the complexities or difficulties for a lot of people when they're in that position. But I think if people are aware, if they know or see living examples of people like you, where that not only can you get through this with the support of others, you can actually, it just sounds weird to even say it, to benefit in some ways from the experiences that you have.
Right.
And I think that's more growth than resilience. So I'm not saying resilience is bad. God, resilience is great. But
Mhm.
instead, like, the goal should be not only to where you were before. That's a good starting point, right? But
Mhm.
maybe recognize the growth that you can achieve beyond that. Um, what are your thoughts? And we talked about this a little bit before. Why do you think people are so attached, like the identity part for first responders? It's the same for firefighters and law enforcement and lots, like that's who they are, right? Can you share what your thoughts are on the benefits of that and the potential downfalls of that, in your opinion?
Well, the downfall is when you are no longer able to actively participate in being a first responder. You feel lost. You feel like, what am I supposed to do now? You still recognize where you're needed. You still hear stories from friends, or even just in your everyday grocery run, you see an uneven gate, an unsteady gate, or you walk by somebody and you smell DKA, and you have to back away and just say, well, I don't really know how to respond to this or how to help out with this right now. Um, so just feeling like you don't have a place. You put on that uniform when you go to work, and it shows the world what you're there for. It shows what your capabilities are and what your purpose is. And you don't need to outwardly express what your purpose is because the uniform shows it for you.
Hmm.
You don't have that anymore. You you're the same person, kind of, but you can't show the world that you want to help and that you have the ability to help anymore. So in some ways you're not given the platform or the availability to go out there and help your community. And for me, I can't speak for others, but I love helping my community. It didn't matter what it was. If I were helping people, one person or a group of people or any segment of the population, I loved it. It fed my soul. And coming up with an idea of how to help community and walking in a uniform and saying, I'm Heather from this department and this is what I'd like to do, it was taken very differently than walking in mom clothes and saying, hi, I'm Heather. I used to be, and now I'm this, but I'd still like to do that. You're not given the same ear.
Hmm.
So I do miss helping. I want to help. I don't know how to get out there and do it. And it's kind of hard.
But you do a lot for your community. More like I think you're being very humble. But you do a lot for your community. You did a lot for those paramedics. Those three girls that got seriously injured from there from Canada. You did a lot to help them. You rallied a lot of people around together. So would you say, Heather, that your identity, you're no longer, are you still registered as an advanced EMT? Did
I
you keep your
am.
registration?
I
Okay. So
am.
you still have registration as an advanced EMT, but you're not working in that field.
Right. I couldn't let it go.
I know I'm the same way. I'm still registered. I can't let it go. I haven't worked on the car for 3 years, but I still pay the fees and I still go
Right.
through all the
Right.
content stuff. I can't let it go. I feel like I'm EMS adjacent now. Dr. Jabber, our friend Dr. Jabber, Alex, he used that term. I thought, oh, that's a great term,
That's a
EMS
good term.
adjacent.
That's a good one.
Do you say for you that your sense of purpose has shifted from being an EMT working obviously to help people in emergency situations, that you have shifted that to helping your community? Did you have that sense of helping your community before
I
you're
did.
medically retired? Oh, you did. Okay.
I did. Any chance that I got to volunteer or to do a per diem, well, not per diem, a volunteer shift, I did. If I saw that there was something on the schedule where they needed a person and there was no pay attached to it, I'd sign up for it because it fed my soul. And I really found a lot of enjoyment in helping people. And usually the volunteering that did not pay, those are the people that needed it the most. Various health fairs or going and talking with elderly people or people that had brain injuries and just being present so they didn't feel forgotten. I loved that. And I
Yeah.
still get to do it, but not on the same scale.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have the same access when you have a large company behind you that is an EMS company. You have more accessibility to help out people. Now, just as a happy mom raising kids and loving on dogs, there's not as much availability to go and help people.
Mm-hmm. So would you feel, because it's only been a few years since you've been told you can't work on the ambulance anymore, would you say that you're still trying to find that sense of purpose for yourself?
When it comes to helping the community, yes, absolutely. But I feel that I have, if it's even possible, I feel like I have more fulfillment from my family, from time with them.
Mm-hmm.
I look at my boy who's 13 and he's taller than I am and he looks like a man, but he's only 13. And I think, wow, I've got less than 5 years left where I'm in charge of you. And then your wings are going to sprout and off you go in the world. And I feel like the clock is ticking and I need to make every second count. Every second count. I'm always going to have the mentality that he's my baby, but he's destined for greatness. I can't
Mm-hmm.
I can't want to keep him in the cradle the whole time. So I know he's going to get out there and help the world. I know it.
Yeah. Let's talk about coping mechanisms. So coping mechanisms are specific to everybody, and for not just for emergency workers or any, everybody gets stressed out in their life.
Mhm.
What do you do that? Because you've gone through stuff,
Oh, yeah.
you've experienced things. What do you do to make you kind of reset your nervous system?
Well, there's the typical things. Get in water, get in a lake or in a stream or in a pool, spend time with people you love, go outside, sunlight, good food, laughter. But I really feed my soul with feeling that I was able to lift somebody else up. Um, we don't really talk too much about things that we do as a family to help out because it feels braggy. It feels like
Mm-hmm.
we're bragging, and I don't like that. But
You could be
I know
braggy here.
that it's common for us if we go out to eat and it's, I don't know, it's a deal on ribs or a deal on burgers. We might buy a few extra plates of food and divvy it up with to go containers. And as a family, we go out and look for homeless and give them a hot meal with napkins and cutlery and salt and pepper, and just try and make them feel human and make them feel seen. Um, we regularly, when we have a community yard sale, my kids go around and take their money and buy as many of the blankets as they can. And we have a collection of blankets. So when the weather turns, we always have 5 or 6 blankets in the back of the car. And my kids are forever saying, let's give a blanket to that person. Let's give a blanket to this person.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
That's great. And that's going to stay with them for the rest of their lives.
I hope so. I
I'm
hope
sure it will.
so, because they can always learn. They can always make money. They can always do the typical things, but I only have so long with them to teach them humanity.
Yeah.
And that, above all else, will be the measure that I hope they are judged by, is the greatness of their humanity.
Yeah. What about acute coping mechanisms? Is there anything that you do that, let's say you hear something or something happens, is there something that you do that's really helpful for you? Like some people do deep breathing, some people, they do tapping. Some
You
people
taught
do,
me the tapping.
Yeah.
You taught me the tapping. In fact, I don't know if you see my arm over here, but I'm sitting here talking with you and I am tapping on my ankle as I speak with you. So
Heather, why are you tapping on your ankle? Are you stressed out? Am I stressing you out? Is this a stressful situation for you? I hope not.
It's not really stressful because I'm talking with my buddy, but
that's all we're doing. No one's watching.
Yeah. It's talking about me. I don't talk about me. I like to talk about
I know you're
other
uncomfortable talking about
people.
yourself.
So
I'm very grateful that you agreed to be on this. I really wanted to interview you, and I know that it makes you feel uncomfortable talking about yourself because you're very humble. But I'm hoping that people that see this, they may learn something. And I'm going to ask all my guests this. What do you do for your coping mechanisms? Overall, like water, ecotherapy, spend time in nature.
Right.
The preventative things you
Outside.
can do. But what are some of the shit's hit the fan? What are you going to do immediately that's going to make you feel better? Tapping is one.
Tapping immediately. If I'm out somewhere, you will see healthy and unhealthy coping mechanisms, and I'll paint the ugly for you. I tap. So sometimes I look like kind of a Goonie bird sitting here tapping, or might tap here.
You tap your third eye? That's a good one.
I learned that one from you and from people with you. Unhealthy coping mechanisms. And I don't realize I do this, but I'll talk about it because I'm sure I'm not the only one. When I get really worked up, I pick, and I don't realize I'm doing it until I look down and I might have a blood smear on my finger or under my nail. And I had no idea I was even doing that. So that's an unhealthy coping mechanism that I'd like to stop.
Mm-hmm.
Bob helps me with that one because he'll notice it before I do, and he grabs my hand, holds my hand.
Yeah, I think that would be more of a symptom or the result of something rather than a coping mechanism. Because I don't know if that necessarily makes you feel better, right? Does it make you feel better, or is it more of a response?
Weird, but when I pick and I'm unaware, gosh, I can't believe I'm talking about this.
We're just friends. No one's listening.
But,
no one's here. Yeah. But I think a lot of people I think might be able to relate.
When I subconsciously pick, oftentimes I'm made aware either through the shock of the color change because I hit blood, or I feel pain. And in that instant that I felt pain, it woke me up to the realization of, something's not right. I'm still here. I'm still me. I'm still alive because I feel this. And then I can consciously hug my dog or go outside or grab water or tap or music or whatever it is. But that's kind of an ugly one that does happen, but it's the reality of it.
No, absolutely. That's a good point.
Sometimes wakes me up to realize, get out of that headspace.
Yeah, because you're right. There's a lot of maladaptive coping mechanisms that people fall into, I think mostly subconsciously. They don't know that they're doing it.
No. Mine are pointed out to me, though. And my husband, occasionally, I'll see the look on his eye when we go into a restaurant, and I know he's going to set me down so my back is to the door.
Right, because he knows.
He knows. Great. And he says, you're going to trust me today. You're going to trust me that I've got you. And I get a little sweaty and I don't like it. And I look for reflections to watch behind me. But
What are your thoughts on counseling therapists? Talk therapy. Be honest.
honest,
Yeah.
I have not had success. And we talked about this last time I got together with you, and you taught
Mm-hmm.
me a term that I love, cultural competence. I
Mm-hmm.
can't go to a standard therapist that other people would go to because they don't understand what we've gone through in EMS. They just don't.
Yeah.
Um, they can't understand the things we've seen, the things we've witnessed, walked into, heard, felt, smelled. They can't understand that. So the situations that I've had where I've gone for therapy has been horribly useless. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like they're bloodlusting. They want to hear stories and specifics and how does that make you feel? And I don't want to relive that. I don't want to talk about things I've seen. I don't want to give my nightmares to somebody else.
Yeah.
So I don't go.
Yeah. And I hear that often. And of course you're not going to talk about that to somebody that you can't connect with, or someone that you don't feel you can trust enough to really be your authentic self to. But the truth is, and this is a saying we say in therapy with trauma, is pain plus the unwillingness to face that pain is where the trauma is. It's not the events itself, it's what we do with them. Whereas that pain plus the willingness to talk about it and step into it is where the growth happens. But you're right, you need to be in an environment and be with somebody that you feel safe enough to step into and do that. So I totally get that. All
Yeah.
right, Heather,
You
before
are
we
my
go, I
safe
want,
space.
what's that?
You are my safe space.
Yeah, well, we're
Love
good
with
friends. We've
you.
known each other for a really long time,
Brother.
and that we're really good friends. And you're my safe space too, as well. So that's great that we could do that for each other, right? Recommendations for people wanting to get. What if your daughter says, "Mom, I want to become a paramedic"? What would you say? What would you say?
The logical me says yes, get the experience so that you can better handle emergencies and help people and think on your feet. But the emotional me says, I don't want you to collect a bunch of demons.
So what would you say?
Ultimately, it's her decision. I would be there for her regardless, but I'd have to have a big talk with her concerning the things that she would witness and how it could change her for maybe for the positive, but there's going to be some bad attributes as well.
Yeah, there's preparations for it. So what would you say for people that want to get into the emergency services world, and maybe like their dream is to become an EMT or paramedic in Las Vegas?
Mm.
And like, oh, wow, it's my dream. I want to do that. I just want to live on the edge of life and just experience all the madness that happens in Las Vegas,
All the crazy stuff that happens
all the
here.
crazy stuff. What would you tell people? What would you tell people that want to get into that field?
Well, first of all, if you want to get into that field, into this field, and you like the party lifestyle yourself, you're not cut out for it. You can't live the Vegas life and the party atmosphere and go out and help people save themselves from themselves. It just doesn't work. It's a recipe for disaster. So you have to be pretty centered, and to be successful at it, I would think you'd have to be pretty chill in your own right. Otherwise, you're going to create more problems for yourself and for others.
So you're saying to ask yourself why you want to do this job.
Why do you want to do this? Do you want to be part of the party, but be on the controlling side of it? Because there's a lot of control that comes from being an EMS over people that need your help. That's the wrong mentality. I've worked with people that they want to be the boss of others, and they find that when somebody is in need of help, they're not coming at it from a point of compassion or helpfulness or humanity. They're coming at it from a jaded, I just want to be the boss. I'm just going to help you, but I'm going to help you by not preserving your dignity or considering your humanity. When I was working and I'd have people that were precepting, I would watch the little things. Did they get eye to eye with their patient? When there was a horribly drunk individual and their hair was in their faces, they were vomiting, did they help hold their hair? How did they preserve dignity? How did they keep their humanity? And it was pretty easy to tell, one or two shifts, and you could tell whether somebody just wanted to be in charge and be the boss or whether somebody genuinely wanted to get out there and help. And yeah, we need more of the helpers.
If somebody could take a magic wand and boop you on the nose with it and go boop, and then now you have all the physical capabilities to do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Would you go back? Would you go work on the ambulance again?
Gosh, if it were like it was in 2006, 2008, yes, absolutely, in a heartbeat.
What about today?
I feel that things have changed so much. I don't know. I don't know if I could do it. It's transferred from helping people, from giving care to covering your butt and then trying to help. And it's a slippery slope. I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to get sued. I don't want to put my crew or myself or my company at risk. But gosh, it's just a different thing than it was back in the day. But if I were younger and completely healthy and it were 2008 again, and I would jump back on in a heartbeat, in an absolute heartbeat.
No, that's awesome. Well, Heather, thanks so much for being on this podcast. You are one of my favorite people. You're just so authentic. You're just so genuine. You're just so true to yourself and a genuine, giving, caring individual, which, one thing I wish that you and I, if I had this magic wand, I would like to go back like 2007 and you and I do a shift together on Ambulance in Las Vegas.
Gosh.
I think that would have been,
could you imagine?
That would have been so much fun. I think we would have had such a great, no matter what would have happened, I think we would have had a really good time working together.
With great music too.
With great music all the time. We didn't even talk about the benefits or detriments of music and going through your mental health. But thanks again so much. You're one of my favorite people in the world, and thanks so much for being on my show.
You're definitely one of my favorite. Thank you.